Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session on learning about prompt engineering. My name is Antonio Cangiano, and I'm an engineering manager and AI specialist at IBM. Today, we're going to talk specifically about prompt engineering. I'm going to share a presentation with you. Now, I'm not going to have an hour-long presentation that will bore you. Instead, this is all about giving you a hands-on experience doing an actual workshop. So I packaged everything into a guided project that you will take, and then you'll be able to actually try those prompts and those suggestions that I make. So the presentation part is very, very quick. In fact, let me show you the agenda. I'll start with this introduction, which is going to be maybe 5 minutes at most, just to show you how to get to the guided project. Then we're going to focus on the guided project, where all of you will independently work on the prompt instructions and trying those prompts in a lab environment that we created for you. And then throughout the presentation, throughout this workshop that you're taking, you will be able to ask me questions in the chat. And as you do, I'm going to answer them as they come. Finally, maybe when we are like 10 minutes from the end, we'll actually have a formal Q&A where I'll be back on camera and I will be answering some final questions. So if your preference is to ask questions as you work through the guided project, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to be answering them. If on the other hand, you prefer to ask them at the end, you'll have an opportunity to do so. Now, when it comes to the topic of this presentation, prompt engineering. So what is prompt engineering? So I would define it as the art and science of coming up with really great prompts that allow us to maximize what we get out of AI systems. So we have these new, really capable AI systems. And in order to really get the best output, the more relevant information, the more accurate information from them, we need to be very precise in the way we ask questions. Now, you can think of it as sort of like English becomes your programming language, right? You might be familiar with Python, JavaScript, and other programming languages, which traditionally we are used to program the computer. But now you can use English or really most human languages, at least most common human languages, to actually program these new AI systems. Now, being a little bit more technical, these are large language models, LLMs. Why large and why language models? So they're large because they're trained on huge amount of data. And they're language models because they're models that have been built on text, on a lot of human written content. And that's what they're really, really good at. So why should you care about prompt engineering at all? The first point is, as I mentioned, it's basically having access to all this AI potential. So AI can do amazing things, and it will only get better in the future. And if you know how to interact with these AI systems and maximize what you get out of them, you'll be ahead of the curve. You will boost your productivity for virtually any task. It doesn't matter what's your field. You can be in finance, you can be in programming, you can be in writing. It doesn't matter. You could be a teacher. No matter who you are, AI can assist you and make you more productive, more precise. It's having a genie in a box, if you will. Now, it will save you time if you know how to prompt these LLMs. It will save you time and a lot of frustration. Because sometimes what happens is you provide a naive question, and what you end up with is either incorrect information or information that is very not quite what you really wanted, right? And so in the process, you're going to start rephrasing it and trying again multiple times. And when you start getting 4 or 5 times the same wrong answer, no matter how you attack the problem from every different angle with different questions, it becomes very frustrating. Much like if you're a programmer and you're working on a bug and every attempt at solving it doesn't work. That can be very frustrating. So if you know how to do prompt engineering properly, you really reduce the amount of times that you run into this kind of situations. And finally, I would argue that you will future-proof your career. It's it's not so much in the beginning when prompt engineering was emerging. A lot of people said, "Oh, this is going to be the new programming. You're going to get a great job that will give you a lot of money," and people were very excited about that. But I think, though it is true that there are some people who maybe specialize and become it will become their actual job. I think it's more about in support of other careers. Whether you're a programmer, whether you're a writer, it doesn't matter what you do. The fact that you will be able to use AI to make you more productive, more accurate, more capable will definitely advance your career, especially compared to someone who doesn't have the same skills. You can think of this as someone back in the, let's say, the 90s, in the early 90s, when the web started emerging. The people who actually were web savvy, they knew how to use the computer and so on. At a time where a lot of people didn't, it was a major asset. So that's the idea. Now, as I mentioned, the focus of this is not me yapping for an hour. The idea is to really get you to try all of this in practice. So I created a guided project. Now, a guided project is essentially a set of instructions that you will follow and an environment. We created a lab environment where you'll be able to try your prompts with actual real LLMs. I will show you what it looks like and explain a little bit the interface. But first, I will explain how to get to the guided project. So, a guided project is called Explore Prompt Engineering, conveniently, the same name as this session. And you will find it on cognitiveclass.ai. Now, cognitiveclass.ai, if you're not familiar, is a website much like Coursera or edX, where you can go and take a bunch of courses, guided projects. So the difference between the two is that courses tend to be longer, so it's a bit more investment of time. They typically come with videos and so on. Guided projects tends to be a little bit shorter, quick. You can take them during your lunch break if you want. And basically, they are short and sweet and typically don't include videos. They just have instructions and usually an environment that enables you to try those instructions so that you learn by doing rather than just try to learn by watching some content or reading some content. So one way to get to this guided project called Explore Prompt Engineering is to go to cognitiveclass.ai and then search for Explore Prompt Engineering. Another option that you have is to simply go to the shortened link here, ibm.biz/prompt-engineering-gp. I'm not sure which one you think is faster or easier, but choose one of the two and you'll get there. Now, I'm going to switch from this presentation to actually show you what it looks like in the browser. So this is what the guided project looks like on cognitiveclass.ai. So if you follow the link or if you search for prompt engineering, you'll find it. You'll see that there's this button here that says enroll for free. So the idea is that you'll go there and you'll click enroll for free. Now, if you already have an account with Cognitive Class, you can just log in. If you don't, you can click register and you can register there. In my case, I'm just going to log in. Now, in my case, I already took this guided project, so it's all check marked. In your case, will not be check marked. So you want to click on Get Started. That's where it all starts. And you'll notice that there is this Launcher project. So we're going to click on that. And then you'll get a disclaimer about the fact that you're launching a third-party tool. That's okay. And what's going to happen now is that this environment gets launched. And this environment is divided in two parts, as you can see. On the left, we have the actual instructions. And by the way, these are pages, so you can go page by page. You can scroll forward or backwards. And on the right, what you have is the actual environment, lab environment. In this particular case, for this particular guided project, it is the generative AI classroom, or just AI classroom. Now, as you can see here, basically we have an environment where we can chat with those LLMs. Here I can choose the model. I have many options to choose from. And here I could provide some prompt instructions. If you don't know what prompt instructions are, don't worry. I'm going to explain everything in the guided project. But essentially, here's where we say to the model how to behave throughout the conversation, like throughout the entire conversation. So if I were to say, answer to me in Spanish, or answer like I was five, something like that, then the model will adapt to answer in that capacity. And then finally, at the bottom here, there is a text field where I'm going to be able to actually enter the prompts. For example, asking the question, any question we can ask. You can say 3 plus 5, or we can do something a little bit more serious and get the answer, of course. The interface also gives us the ability to start new chats. So we can start from scratch and we can select a different model, or we can select a different prompt instructions, because once you submit some prompt instructions, they're locked in. We also have the ability to compare models. So if I click on this one, you'll see that I have the ability to compare it with a different model. Now this one is already selected, but because that's the one we were using. But it does give you the ability to compare two models. I can rename the chat if I want. This is good if you have many chats and you want to organize them. And so it's a really great way to test a lot of models without having to sign up on the official sites, switch different tabs, copy the output, put them in some kind of editor, and then trying to compare it, for example. That's where the comparing models really comes in handy. So that's the idea in broad strokes for the AI classroom. So what I'd like for you to do now is to go do that. So I'd like for you to go to the URL that I provided. So it's cognitiveclass.ai. Search for Explore Prompt Engineering, or just Prompt Engineering. You will find it in the guided projects section. And once you enroll, you'll be able to launch this environment. As you do, start here. Don't skim it. You have plenty of time. This should take about, most people, between 30 minutes and maybe an hour at most. So don't sweat if you don't finish it today during the session. You have access to this and other content on cognitiveclass.ai. So that means that even if you don't finish it during this session, you can come back to it, no problem. And as I said, do this, and then what we'll do is we'll switch to a formal Q&A session at the very end, the last 10 minutes or so. In the meantime, if you have questions, if you're stuck, if there are any issues, let us know in the chat, and I'll try to answer those questions as well. Okay, hopefully everyone has had a chance to go through most of the guided project, if not all of it. There weren't too many questions. I think the main issue was trying to determine why LLMs can get right the counting of letters in the word strawberry. Um, yeah, there were some good answers in the comments. So I will only add that at a very high level, the way you can think of LLMs is as very good at determining patterns and then making predictions of what comes next on the basis of those patterns. So it's not like um, a Python program where you get an array and you have those letters and you go through and you count them. They don't do that kind of step by step process unless you induce it, like I explained in the guided project. It's more of a, it goes by patterns. Yes, the more technical explanation is there are two tokens and it doesn't see the word like we do. But at a broader level, it's good at knowing patterns that it has been exposed to and then make a prediction on what might come next as a result. But that prediction doesn't mean it's going to be 100% correct all the time. And that's why it's so important to trust but verify. Don't implicitly trust the output of LLMs. They're very powerful. They're very useful, but you do want to, you know, do Q&A, quality assurance, quality control on your own. Okay, so let's see if there are any other questions in the meantime. We're very close to the end of the session, so if there are some final questions, feel free to ask them. So we got a very interesting questions. How to decide which model to use? Um, you've probably seen during the Gather project that the comparison tool kind of helps you out a little bit. But generally speaking, there are some models that establish themselves as leader in the industry. So for generic text, for example, so not a specific task like coding, you might be looking at Claude Opus 3, Llama 3, ChatGPT 4.0 and o1, IBM Granite. Those are the, I would say, some of the bigger ones. There's always new emerging ones, but the idea is that basically my suggestion is to try them out, see how well they don't try, how many R's are in strawberry. As much as that's fun to trip them and test their logic ability, it's much better to actually use them to solve some real problem that you have and compare how useful the output is. You give them a very good prompt, and then you see what kind of responses you get, and then choose accordingly to the one that you feel that it gives you the best answers. And keep in mind that if it's just you asking a few questions, the choice is fairly easy. You're just going to go for the one that gives you, in your own subjective view, the best answers. However, if you are integrating this into a program or a web app or a mobile app or something like that, and now you have hundreds of thousands of users, then other factors like cost and speed become crucial. So you will be able to test that side of the performance equation as well to determine, what's the best option for you, essentially. And of course, if you're, let's say, using this specifically for coding, then you want to opt for models that are specifically made for coding. For example, IBM Granite coding, the coding model rather than the chat or instruct model, which are more generic for um, instruction based text. Okay, let's see if there is, I think there's another question possibly. Um, the problem with so the question is, what are some of the biggest gotchas you have seen in older models from prompt engineering? They're obviously cheaper but less reliable. Yeah, they're a lot less reliable, and the biggest gotcha is that they do not have the ability. When it comes to logical reasoning, they're very poor. So even if you instruct them correctly, very old models tend to struggle to, let's say, with a chain of thought type of approach, where you give them exact example of the reasoning that you expect. Some of the older models, even after you explain exactly what you want step by step with examples, will fail to follow those instructions. Whereas the latest models, which are more advanced and slightly more expensive per request, do a lot much. They do much better when it comes to reasoning and step by step approaches. Okay, I think we might be out of time. So thank you so much, everyone. Um, as a reminder, my name is Antonio Cangiano. I work for IBM in the IBM Skills Network team, which is one of the teams that works, the primary team that works on CognityClass.ai as an IBM initiative. It's not an IBM site, but it's an IBM initiative that we contribute to. And cangiano@ca.ibm.com is my email. If you'd like to send me an email, or I need to ask a question or anything, feel free to reach out. Probably the best way to stay in touch with me would be to search for my name on LinkedIn, and you'll find me there. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone.